Welcome everybody once again to the From Trauma to Triumph Summit. I am so glad to have my sister Hughes. It's just been awesome. All of the other speakers, I hope to this point you've been blessed, you've been encouraged, you've been motivated, and just ready to live in purpose and live on purpose and being intentional about healing emotionally, psychologically, in every area of your life. The reason why I have these phenomenal speakers that I've chosen is because they understand what it is to be stuck and to go through some traumatic experiences, and they understand the different emotions and how it affects you and traumatizes you when you go through things. But we need to encourage each other. We need to beat up one another. And sometimes it takes other people to pull us out of that stuck place. There's nobody on this earth who have not experienced some type of traumatic experience, some type of traumatic events. And I believe that we need to encourage each other. And sometimes it just takes us coming together and going where you are and helping you to come out. So I'm happy about the summit is because you can be anywhere and watch this. You don't have to go to the psychologist's office or the doctor's office. You can just tune in and listen to these people who've been through something that you've been through. And I'm sure somebody's story is going to resonate with you. Somebody's story is going to be similar to something that you have experienced. And so that's what this summit is all about. Just helping you to understand that you have a purpose and you have a plan. And I know we hear that all the time, but it is true. And it's hard to see it when you're in the midst of your traumatic experience. And sometimes you just want to dismiss all of the people who try to come and encourage you. It's like, yeah, I heard that before, and I've been there, and I'm sure y'all's been there. But understand that there is a plan, there is a purpose for you. And so we are here to help usher you into that purpose, whatever it takes. But sometimes it takes a word, like I always say, a message from somebody who's transparent about their own experience to help you feel, motivated again. Like, you know what, there is the other side to the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and know that you can make it and you're not by yourself. So all of us that are part of this, we are servants. That's what we do all the time. So when we tell you stuff, it's not just something that's mystical and from our imagination. It's stuff that we live through. This is real. So all of the testimonies are real stories. And I just want you to tune in, sit back, relax, and just glean, and take up all that you can to strengthen you. And that's what we want you to become, strengthened in your spirit. But I'm so glad to have Hughes on tonight. And I want to read a little bit of her bio, and I'm going to let her expound on more, tell you more about herself, and let her get into her story. Thank you so much, Hughes, for being a part of this From Trauma to Triumph Summit. I'm so glad you was able to make it. I couldn't wait to get you as one of the speakers, because I see that you're doing so many things, and it seems we have a lot in common. And one of them is to help people to become healed emotionally, psychologically. Yeah. So important. And I know you have a story, but before we get into that, I'm just read a little bit of your bio. And of course, you're known as Lady Yah. You're highly spirited, sought after motivational speaker, a pastor, an educator, a leadership trainer, an author. And your purpose is to transform lives of other people, showing them how to live in their purpose. That's what the summit is all about. You're the founder of Made for Purpose, LLC. You're no stranger to, again, we'll be talking about hardship and battling with depression, and so many people battle with that now. It's like I've never seen so many people that battle with depression and anxiety so much now. And so we really need something like this, and people need to hear your story. And I'm so happy about that. And I also see that you experience, addiction in your family, addiction in your family, and how, of course, that have, affect you in some kind of negative way. But I'm so glad today that you came out of it, and that you're going to show others how to come out of it as well. And we had another speaker who kind of dealt with that generational addiction. So it's so important that we speak about those things as well. And just to stop for a quick minute, a lot of times we don't talk about these things in the body of Christ in church. We kind of push them under the table. We don't really address them. I mean, I'm so glad today that we address them more than we used to in the past. There was no pastoral counseling and so much Christian counseling, but now we have people like you who are not afraid to be transparent and not ashamed to tell their story. Because of course, you know, part of being a minister and a leader is to be that walking example to help other people. Okay, so I'm not going to talk any longer. I'm going to let you go ahead and expound more about yourself and then get into your story. Take the mic, girl.
Well, thank you so much, Cheryl, for having me today. I think that this summit is flat out absolutely amazing. It's needed and is for such a time as this. So many people are hurting, like you said. So many people don't know where to turn. You know, there's nobody really walking that walk and being transparent. And I think that this is a great tool and a great way to reach the people and let them know that you're not alone. And I think that my story is, you know, I always say that my story may not be your story, but the same things apply. For me, Yahs, who am I and what has happened? You know, and I always say my real bio is that I am a woman who got up, you know, got up after adversity, got up after life has beat you down, all of those things. And I found myself depressed. I found myself struggling with my identity. You know, did God love me? Why didn't the people that were supposed to love me love me? Both of my parents were addicts from the time I can remember. I remember as early as 5 years old, my mom on drugs, my dad on drugs, both of them in and out of incarceration and verbal abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse. At the age of 14, I found myself taking care of siblings while both my parents were locked up. So at 14 years old, I am being a mom to a baby. Like my mom literally had a baby and they had to come home with me, trying to do all of these things. And in those formative years, when you're supposed to be getting esteemed and learn who you are and all of those things, my message was that one, I wasn't good enough for anything other than taking care of your kids. You know, I was called anything but a child of God. I always thought that they chose drugs over me. And I began to search for love in all of the wrong places. I began to find myself doing things that I should not have done, looking to be accepted by family, friends, being angry, that angry teenager, looking for men and love and all of those things. And it began this downward spiral of rejection and identity issues. And I was similar to the woman with the issue of blood, right? My issues were my identity. I was just known around my neighborhood as the crackheads' daughters, right? And this was just what I was known. So I was embarrassed to go to school. I was embarrassed because, you know, the local drug dealers were in the school that were selling to my parents and all of that. So then, you know, at the years as a female, 14 and 15 years, you're learning to be a woman. You're learning what you should and shouldn't be. And here I am, you know, feeling like I'm inadequate, feeling rejected, feeling that he wanted me. That's when depression set. That's when I began to get the message that everybody that was supposed to love me didn't love me. Right. And it began this downward spiral. And I began to kind of be in this black hole, so to speak. And that's just, you know, what it was. But one day I made a decision that I didn't want this anymore. I didn't want to be that, and that their issues weren't my issues. And I didn't no longer had to hide in the shadows, and I no longer had to be that. I can just remember feeling like I wanted something different. I didn't know how to get it, but I knew that this wasn't it. And I was just crying and crying and crying at my lowest place. And I said, God, I don't know, you know, what this means, but I know that I can't stay here. I don't want to be here. And the traumatic experience for me that changed my life was I was doing everything for my siblings, right? It was a little brother who was 3 years younger than I, and then my other brother that was 14 years younger than I, the one that she had when I was 14. And my brother that was 3 years younger than I was raising him, and I was raising a baby. So by this time, I'm 20 years old. They're in and out of jail. I couldn't go away to college, none of that. I got my own place. And my brother, who at the time was 3 years younger than I, he was 17 and I was 20, was murdered. And he was murdered. And that, in that moment, I felt helpless. I felt lifeless. I felt like, you know, we were just getting to a place where I was taking care of them, and we were okay with what our normal was. You know, we were okay with surviving and just being there. And I remember I felt helpless that I couldn't save him, that it was nothing that I can do. And that for me was the most traumatic experience, that I felt helpless, because everything else I felt like we've been here, we've done that, we could get through it. But whatever I was doing wasn't enough to save my brother, right? So I internalized that. I began to believe that I was supposed to save him, because the message was that I'm the big sister, I was taking care of them, and this is what I'm supposed to do, and I couldn't save him. Mm-hmm. So that then spiraled into that depression for me. That then spiraled into, what is my life going to be like? What am I going to do? Because I couldn't save my brother.
Wow.
But that was also my turning point. I knew that in order for me to save my other life together. So that began my healing at 20 years old, December the 16th. I remember it like it was yesterday. The decision, the day that my brother, the next day after my brother was killed, that I can't stay here physically, meaning in the city of Philadelphia, and just do this. I gotta go and get help. So help for me was making a decision to go away to college, not knowing anyone, first in my generation to go to college, not knowing anybody when I stepped foot on campus. And that's where I began my healing. That's where I really, got into the face of God. That's where all of my struggles, those 4 years of my identity, and God began to work on me. He removed me from everything and everyone to get me to that place.
That's awesome. I'm trying to figure out, how did you get through high school with all of that going on, that you was actually able to graduate? Because I didn't.
The grace of God, I remember I got left back that year that my mom had the baby, and I went to summer school. I did it. I just knew that I had to do more. At that time, I just knew that I had to do more for my little brother. Right. I just had to show him something different, because where we came from, people didn't graduate from high school, let alone college. It became, a statistic and all of that. I just knew that I wanted to finish what I started. So it was almost like I was a team.
Yes. Yes. That's what makes you so strong now. You can see the strength that you have to carry something, and it just comes out, and it's awesome because God used that in leadership, right? How to nurture other people.
Yes.
Awesome. Gosh, I just thought about something when you mentioned going to college, but that's so awesome, because I'm like me, I grew up in the projects. So a lot of my friends didn't finish high school. Okay. So I'm going to tell my little story later. So I know the different things that you kind of was surrounded by, the negativity. And, I remember growing up and seeing people on drugs outside my door and people on heroin. That stuff can affect you, and dealing with girls who didn't like me. So I don't know. Did you have to fight a lot physically growing up?
So I didn't fight a lot physically growing up. I think I can literally count on one or two hands, like me having to fight. See, my mom was the fighter. My mom had me young. So my mom was had me. So I think because she was the fighter and she was known in the neighborhood, like they kind of left me alone. So I think the only fights I had was protective fights, protecting my brother or something like that. So I was that one that you had to literally push my button to really get me to that place. I too saw that people getting shot outside my door. I grew up in the projects. We grew up in the projects, didn't move till I was 15 years old. So all of that, I got to see all of that, but I didn't have to fight. See, I already had to fight in my household. I already had to fight in my mind. I already had to fight in places. So I thank God that He spared me from having to fight physically too.
It's like all of my life I had to fight. For real. Oh my God. I can imagine that, going through that, when you talked about people who were supposed to protect you, they weren't able to be there for you, that you might have battled with issues of trust with other people, because a lot of people battle with that. Like, how can I trust you? Because the people that I was supposed to trust and rely on, they weren't able to be there for me. So how can I trust you? And then not only that, to trust the God you can't see. That's a whole nother level.
Oh, listen, trust were very real in my life because, like you said, those people that were supposed to love me, that were supposed to be there, I was supposed to have that trust, I didn't. There were times when, I felt abandoned, I felt rejected, I felt all of these things. So I always felt like either I was the charity case, right? People felt so bad for me, but now I'm like, what's your angle? So I didn't trust the help that was available to me. Or I always felt like if I get too close, how long are you going to stay? When are you going to leave? You going to do that? So those trust issues, and I can remember feeling that I was over them and brought them into my marriage. I can literally remember my first year of marriage. My husband and I just celebrated 10 years. We just came off of our vow renewal. But first year, we lived in this apartment, and it was like, a 2-bedroom apartment. I mean, literally, probably wasn't even 800 square feet or something like that. And my husband would always wait till I went to sleep to go play like the video game or whatever. And I would get up and come running down the hallway like, where are you? Where are you? Like the trust issues, because in my mind, he got up in the middle like he's gone. He's gone. So literally he would be looking at me. I'm yelling his name. Like, what's wrong with you? But it manifested into, I'm thinking that he's gone somewhere, and I couldn't stop it, right? It was so bad that we began to have arguments about it. He's thinking that I didn't want him to play the game or anything. I'm thinking that, no, I can't put my finger on it, but I think that you're going to leave me. Like, what are you doing out here? Why would you wait for me to go to sleep and all of that? So trust issues is something that I really had to, sit back and get to the root of and conquer, because they were leading in every part of my relationship. Right. I began to, if it was something that I can control, right, I didn't control it, because it felt like my whole entire childhood I couldn't control. Right. So I struggled with control as a result as well.
Right. Wow, I can imagine. Even with female relationships, because I have friends who battle with that too. And I remember one friend in particular, it was hard for her to hug me and show me love. We kind of grew up together in the same building, in the same neighborhood, but we were very close friends, but it seemed like every time I tried to hug her, she pushed me away. And her thing was, like you said, I don't know how long you're going to be here. Is it real? Is this real? Because she never experienced that, even in her own family. She just didn't really experience that type of love with her parents or anything. And her dad violated her. Her dad. Oh my God. Yeah. Matter of fact, I have a couple of friends that happened to, but her father, she was very, very young. And so it wasn't a full, but still it was inappropriate. And so all of that, it affected her female relationships. She had a problem of forming long lasting relationships with other women. So that was a whole nother thing. So she had to grow to understand that, I'm here, I'm going to be your friend regardless, no matter what. But so I could definitely imagine the trust issues that you battle with, and thank God, that he was able to show you and you was able to heal, and that your husband was able to, whatever it took, for him to understand or whatever, that he's still there with you. And he probably was part of your healing process. Was he part of your healing process? Okay.
He was very much a part of my healing process because, like my husband has been in my adult life the most constant thing, person that in there the longest outside of my best friend, right? So, like I've had females come and go, like you said, trust issues, all of that. And I think that my best friend has seen me through all of those issues. So my husband has been very instrumental in that process. Like he could see the tug of war, the struggle with the old person, the rejected person, and the person, that's accepted by God, but she still feels rejected. So my husband is a great man of faith. So he would literally pray me through some things. He was the one who was like, maybe you just need to go and get counseling. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. But in order for you to be the best version of you, you got to get it together, right? So I think that knowing and him showing me day after day that he wasn't going nowhere allowed for me to believe that people weren't there. And I think that ultimately it was my relationship with God, that me learning and understand that God wasn't going nowhere and he was there the whole time, because, we talk about all of the other people, but sometimes we are mad at God, or sometimes we can't see God. I wasn't mad, but I felt like he wasn't there. And then when you look back at all of the things that he shielded you from and all of the things, like I thank God that with both parents being drug addicts and that being a generational curse, that wasn't my life. Right? You know, like I know people today, people today that may not have been their story, that they wasn't strong enough to push through, but they succumbed to it. You know, like I could very well have been on the streets selling my body. I could have very well allowed for my brothers to go in foster care. I could have been anywhere, but I know that God was there through all of that. So my thing is trusting, seeing all that he has protected me from, allow me to trust him and to trust other people. And now I trust that God isn't going to put people in my life that's going to reach that. God is going to remove them because he's worked too hard to get me where I am today to be a living testimony for him, that he's not going to allow for people to come in and snatch that away.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. You know, I want you to share the strategies or whatever it took. And you mentioned some of those things in your process of healing. And I'm sure in the midst of healing, you have to learn to forgive at the same time. So that's so much a bigger part of it, forgiving others and understanding that they had their issues and whatever experience they had that caused them to maybe become addicted, you know, and live the lifestyle that they live. It's so awesome when you get to that healing point in God, he starts to show you that none of us are perfect, but our parents also, out of their own trauma, did the best that they can do and know that we're born and shaped in iniquity. So whatever issues they had caused them to go down the route that they had to go down. And it's also when you come to that point, because it helps you to let go and release whatever unforgiveness and maybe grudges or resentment, because sometimes we get resentment against our parents for things that they've done to us, but we start to see them with the mind of Christ instead of, you know, our mind. It's just so different. But just go over, I just want you to kind of get more into like how did you find your journey on your way to your becoming whole and healed and the forgiveness and all of that stuff.
So for me, my journey to wholeness began with me beginning the process of loving myself. So mine started with loving myself. I think for a long time, I used to, write letters to my parents and not get anything in return. And then that would add to my depression. That would add to me feeling like I wasn't worthy or I wasn't adequate. And I can remember being in college, it was my junior year. And I was in this on-again, off-again relationship with somebody from back home who I thought that I was getting rid of, but came into, that part of your life. Sometimes we shake our past and we can't shake people. And I can remember we've been in this same place since I was 14 years old. Here I am, 23 years old, and we haven't done but the same things that we've been doing. I'm looking for love and I'm coming up empty. I'm feeling lonely in a relationship. And I remember him leaving and I knew there was nothing that happened. There was no blow up. There was no argument, but I knew that I could not do this anymore because my mind was beginning to be shaped. I wanted something different. I wanted to love me. And at 23 years old was the first time I stood in the mirror and told myself I love myself. Wow. So when I told myself that I love myself, that was the beginning for me of honoring and loving myself. And when I began to honor and love myself and know that I was what God created me to be, I got a declaration and I began to say it until I believed it. And that declaration was, I am enough. I am not my past. I am not what others have said I am. I am not what my parents chose to do. I am not a victim, but I am victorious. So I began to say that every single day until I believed it. And on the days that I felt lonely, on the days that I wanted to call him back, on the days that my parents didn't respond or didn't show up or didn't call or didn't do any of those things, it was me journaling and me writing and me declaring and decreeing. And once I began to do that, that was my stage of getting up, right? I say that our issues make us go into this pit. They make us fall into this dark place. For some of us, we don't ever get up. We mask it. We keep going on. But me starting the process, standing in front of my truth and, owning up to some of the things that I am where I am is because I made decisions, right, to be there, because it was so easy for me to keep blaming my parents. But at 23 years old, my parents may have been the root of some things, but I made a decision to stay with that person from 14 years old. I made a decision, to keep devaluing who I was, and not even he not even taking me on a date, let alone, so like those kinds of things. And I to get up emotionally, and I fought every single day, meaning when I begin to feel those things and see that again, I begin to write out. Journaling for me was very therapeutic. So I began to journal. I would do self-talk, because you aren't taught to tell yourself stuff. You look for other people to say stuff to you. And when you don't get it, you go look for it. So I knew that I've been looking and searching for a long time and kept coming up empty. So I needed to do something different. So I began the process of talking to myself. And then with the forgiveness piece, I was very angry. I was very bitter. I was very mad because, for many reasons, my mom was very verbally abusive. I felt that my dad was my savior. So when he got hooked on drugs, he disappointed me. So I was angry. And angry with aunts, uncles, people who didn't come to my rescue, knew what I was going through, all of that. But then I had to understand that forgiveness was for me and not for them. It would literally, I could hear my mother's voice or hear somebody talk about her, and I would be having a great day. And then next thing you know, the puppet strings were pulled, and I'm not having a good day anymore. I'm angry again. I'm all of that. So the release again was for me, because I had to understand that forgiving them was it was for me to have a better life, because they're holding me hostage. And I'm mad because they're doing their thing. She didn't have more kids. He's doing this. Everybody is living a life, and I'm stuck. I'm stuck. So forgiveness isn't for the person, but it's for you, because it releases you from that same place that you keep reliving over and over again. You keep pressing rewind on the DVD player. You keep rewinding that time in that situation, but that's not what God wants for you to do. I was reliving that over and over again. And I had to understand that forgiveness wasn't excusing the offense. Right? Because that's what we get. We're not letting them get away scot-free with anything. But I'm making a conscious decision to say that you don't get to live in my heart anymore. You don't get to use my emotions to dictate everything. Like, I don't get to live in fear. I don't get to live in distrust. I don't get to live in rejection anymore, because I didn't forgive you. So I'm doing this for me. It's not about you.
Right. Wow. And that's self-empowerment. And I always talk about that. People think I'm crazy. I'm like, look, self-therapy, talk therapy is powerful. And I did that when I was a child. I'm going to tell my little crazy story when I do my thing. But I remember that's how I work stuff out. I talk stuff. I do it now. I talk out loud. I'm like, wow, did I do A, B, C, and D? Because it's therapeutic. I'm getting it out. And it's like, and then when you said declaring things, it's like reinforcing the affirmations, the positive affirmations, until you believe them. And it's such a great strategy, because we know in the beginning, you may not believe it. You're speaking stuff that sounds foreign to you. I'm fearfully, wonderfully made. God loves me. I'm special. It sounds foreign because you don't feel that way. But the key,
I feel that way.
Yeah, you speaking it, then you surround yourself. When you start doing it, I believe you open up the opportunity for other people to, draw near you, where they're positive and they're speaking the same language. So you connect with somebody who's speaking that same language. It's a whole process. And that's why I really want people to, I thank God for every speaker, because we are God conscious and we are children of God, and we understand that He's part of the healing better than anything else. It's that spiritual and that emotional healing. And He helps us to find our way back to our ordained purpose from the beginning. And that's part of the healing process. And like you said, finding your identity, learning who you are. And when you start to see pieces of who you are, then revelation comes. It's like, wow. And so I have a desire, and you do too, people to, a passion for people to get to that place where they start to find their identity, and they start to walk in healing, and they start shedding off those layers of pain. And because it's so much weight, and it hurts me when I see people like that. It's like I get so mad. It's like I just want to shake it off of them. So I believe this summit is a part of that. Helping people to come to that place and start the process. And that's why I want people to connect with any of us, of all of us, because they don't have to do it by themselves. And I'm so glad that you're sharing your story and you're being transparent. And we already know that testimonies are very powerful because you help, free somebody else up. And so that's what it's really all about. And so I'm so glad for you to share your story. I know you got a whole lot more that you can share, but I know you helped somebody today. And I thank you so much for being a part of this whole summit and this whole movement. I call it a healing movement because we're dealing with so many different areas. We addiction and psychological issues and emotional issues and physical issues and so much. And like you said, you can apply it to different parts of your life. It may not be one area. We may not address everything, but still the journaling and the strategies that you use, they are helpful in any kind of traumatic experience that we go through in life, so we can become unstuck. So I thank you so much, y'all, for your time, for sharing your story. And I do want those who are tuning in to learn how they can connect with you, how they can find you. If you have any programs, any services, any offers, anything that you have for the people, you can share them now.
Yes. So you can find me at Yahs on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I have a Facebook community called The Purpose Crew, where it's women, where we talk about all things emotional wellness, spiritual development, personal development, and professional development, because we believe that once you get whole, right, you got to be whole in all of those areas. So you can find me there. And I do have a program that is launching July 1st. It is called The Purpose Pusher, where we're pushing you into your purpose emotionally. For so many of us, we're doing great things, but emotionally, fear stops us, doubt stops us, depression stops us, rejection, all of those things. So Purpose Pusher is a great tool for you to go to your next level in your purpose, but do that through conquering all of your emotional issues. And for everybody that is a part of the summit that has tuned in, you will receive a PDF of my Forgiveness is for You ebook and worksheet. So I'll be sure to make sure that is alongside here, and that will be my freebie. I also have a mailing list that you can be a part of. So I am so grateful to connect with you all. I pray that something said today will allow for you to get up and confront your it, whatever that it may be. It may be different than ours, but you get up out of that painful place, that you confront it, and then that you begin to walk in your God-given purpose and your wholeness.
Amen, girl. You sound like me, preaching to the it, dealing with the it, the root, the issue.
Right. You have to deal with it, right?
Right. I know that's right. It may hurt in the beginning, but it's good at the end. It's so great at the end. Thank you so much again. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you was blessed, moved, inspired, motivated, and all that great stuff. And so now you know how to connect with Hughes. Look, if you resonate with her story or some kind of way that you feel that she'd be able to help you in some kind of way, reach out to her. She's made herself available to you. Don't forget to get your freebie. It's so important. Get that freebie. And that's one good thing about the summit. Everybody has something for you that you can use even in the process right now on your journey to healing. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again with the next speaker. Have a wonderful night.